Today we are going to be talking about traveling together as friends. So we have a little bit of experience with that, don't we, Emma?
We do indeed. And some scares too, which is fun.
Makes for an interesting story. But Emma actually came to visit me in China when I was living there. You came over Chinese New Year, right?
Yes. Because at work, so I work for a company that we also produce custom caps. And at that time, our primary factory that we worked with was in China. So they were off for basically 2.5 weeks for Chinese New Year. Um, it's the slowest time of the year for us. And at that time, I didn't have too many job responsibilities other than entering orders. So I was like, okay, why don't I just go ahead and travel and visit? Because I wanted to travel to China before and I wanted to see my friend Nicole. So two birds, one stone.
And I think, obviously, in China, it is a holiday. So it made the most sense for me to have somebody come and visit because I wouldn't be working as well. So it kind of just worked out for both of us.
For
And
sure.
how do you think we did with planning? Like, do you think we could have done better? Because I know, like, a lot of it got kind of placed on me because I was there. But I know that I'm also not the best planner in the world either.
I think, well, like the last day that I was there, I was supposed to go to Hong Kong, but I was really just it was like that was the last day, and everybody was starting to get back to work. I think on that day, I was exhausted because we had just been hiking a mountain and some other stuff, and so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna hang out in the city and take my leisurely time and not worry about going down to the train station, trying to translate that I need a ticket to Hong Kong, and then run around Hong Kong all day, and then come back really late at night when I had to be up super early in the morning. And I think that was better for me. Um, Planning wise, I mean, I would say just because of the holiday, there wasn't a ton of like touristy stuff open. There was some, but not a ton
I mean,
because
you
a lot of
also
people
went
were
to
on vacation.
Guangzhou, which is not really a tourist area to begin with.
Ex- Exactly. It's an industrial area, that sort of
Hmm.
thing. So, I mean, I think the only thing that we could have planned out a little better was like our trip to visit the wall, um,
Oh, yeah.
like the southern portion of the Great Wall, um, because we realized after we bought the tickets that we would have had to take another like hour long or 30-minute long bus ride to the wall from where we had taken the train stop.
Yeah.
But
We ended up not doing that because it was just like so much trouble. It ended up just
yeah,
causing us so much headache. So we just
yeah,
canceled them, right?
yes. We just hung out in that little town, which it's not little, but like that one was, it was an interesting stop because we were like, okay, now that we're here, what do we do? Because we
Mm.
got tickets. So we like, I think we meandered around a park that was still being finished up. And it was a park that there was the same designer or design team that had styled Central Park and one other park in the U.S.
Wow.
So that was really cool.
I don't remember
Um,
this stuff. I don't remember any of that.
I was reading the sign because it said this area is under construction and had like an image, and it said it had it in Chinese, and then it had it in another language, and then it had it in English what they were doing, and I was like, that's cool. Um, what was and then we tried to go to this theme park inside the middle of a park, another park, and we're like, let's go. And then the guy's like, no ticket, and we didn't have a ticket, so we roamed around a little more. But we did find a really good like, I guess you would call it like the American equivalent of a cafe because we went in and I think we got some food and like I don't know if it was a tea or like a drink, and it was really cute. I remember that. But
I honestly have to say I don't remember any of that. I remember going to the mountain and Westlake, and that's kind of it. Oh, and then I also remember like I had to go to work one of the like last days you were there, and you went pearl hunting and jade
I did.
hunting.
Yes.
I
So
remember
that's
that.
instead of me going to Hong Kong, that's what I did.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Emma really wanted to bring back like some jade for her and her family, and then she's also obsessed with pearls. So she went and found some of those,
I did.
and
I
you really did accomplish that. I was pretty impressed.
mhm. I had researched where, and you kind of gave me a hint as to where to start looking. And I researched the area where I had to start, or because I could. So there was like this whole area that I could go in and like check things out. Like it was like almost a building
Mm-hmm.
that it was pearl market. So in that region, because I did my research on that, they harvest a lot of pearls and jade and things, or a lot of pearls in the bay right there out of Guangzhou. And then they are, you can either have them raw cut or they can be made into jewelry and you can still buy it for a ridiculously cheap price.
Mm-hmm.
So I went first to a mall. No, I didn't. Yes, I did. No, I didn't. I forget that part. So I went to a mall that I think my mom would like, and they were like a pale pink pearl. And I was looking at the jade, and none of it was this like the vibrant green color I was looking for. It was more white, so not as high quality of jade. So I was like, all right. So then there was another spot. Like the first day we were there, we went and we just traveled all over the city. So you showed me everything that was going on. And we went to walked past this like corner building that you said, and it double checked was like the pearl hub. So you walked in and it was like floors upon floors upon floors of pearls. Well, I walked over there. It was still closed for the holiday.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I go back to the station, the tube station, and the little market that's right there was wide open. And I look, and it's cases upon cases upon cases of pearls and jade. And I was like,
There you
good,
go.
I have success. I'm going to make this work. So I walk in and I talk with the first lady. She does not know any English. But I said pearl, and she goes, ah. So she pulls out this tray of pearls. And I find a pair of earrings that I like. And then she hands me the bracelet, and she says, I don't know what, but she was basically saying, normally it's X amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
For you, this amount. So she basically took, I forget how much kwai, but it was like 40 to 50 kwai off of the original tag. And I was like, so I negotiated
Just saying, you
with her
probably could have
calculator.
gotten more, but good job.
But I negotiated with her calculator and I typed in the number I wanted to pay. And then
Okay.
she said, okay.
That's good.
And I was like, cool. And then I asked her about jade, and I pointed to the case, and then she found me a piece. She was like, this one. And then she goes and asks what color I want for the necklace part or the bracelet part, depending on how tight you want it to go. And I shrugged, and she did red. And she says, good luck. Means good luck. I was like, cool. I can handle that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my excursion with the pearls, the jade.
Yeah, I wish I had put a little more time into trying to find some pieces. I found a couple I wanted to buy, but it was like really early when I was first there. And like I said before, like I was just not very smart when it came to money. So I thought it was like actually really expensive, and in retrospect it was actually a pretty good deal. So and then like the other thing you have to worry about is like if it's real or not. And so you kind of have to be careful about that. But it's kind of also like, if I like it, if it looks good, like it doesn't really matter to me if it's real or not.
Yeah.
It's just about, are you willing to pay that price for it?
True.
Um,
True. It is the trick of when you're being a tourist, I'll look for something that I'm going to appreciate for years, like a pair of earrings or something like that. Or I saved an orchid from one of the flower markets, so it's dried and in a little bowl. Things that have a little more meaning to your trip. So it reminds you, hey, I had fun doing this with Nicole, or I had fun going over here and looking at hundreds of thousands of orchids, or I did a really good job navigating the tourist trap of that area, you know.
Yeah, we went to the flower market because during Chinese New Year's that's like the thing to do. And that was the first time I ever went there. Was that Chinese New Year. So that was different for me as well. And we just like walked around and saw all these like gorgeous flowers. And do you remember how they said that like I don't know if it was in Panyu or somewhere else, but apparently like the flower market, the flowers that were in like those markets were like the flowers that inspired Pokemon, and we were going around trying to figure out which flowers went to what Pokemon.
I don't remember that at all.
Oh, maybe I didn't tell you, but like that was one of the things that was like kind of cool about those
Yeah.
markets is that they had these really like weird looking plants. So they were
Well, because like a bunch of them were orchids, and then some of them were like fruit trees, but they weren't fruit trees. They were small little plants with like little pear-shaped looking oranges on. And I'm like, I don't know what these are.
yeah, I think I just showed mom a picture of that lately. She was like, "What is that? It looks like a lemon tree without any tree to it. It's just like all lemons."
Yeah. It was cool though. I really liked the flower markets were surprising, and they're from what your when we met up with your friends later in the day for dinner that day. Uh, they're like, oh yeah, they only pop up at this time of year. They last for 2 weeks and then they're gone. And I'm like, so you only have 2 weeks to buy these orchids that are huge. So like here in the U.S., my stepmom tries to grow orchids and like keep the plant and have it re-blossom the next year.
Mm-hmm.
And she's never been able to do it. So she has to buy a new orchid every year if she wants one. Controversially, my coworker at work, she does the same thing, but she's able to keep her plants alive and has had one reblossom. So they're such a tricky plant. So to have hundreds of blossoms on one plant is just, I was sitting there shocked because I'm like, I'm used to an orchid pot, like one little pot, a stem, and like 4 or 5 orchids just hanging off the top, just going whoop. But here it was one thicker branch with multiple edges on, or multiple loops on them of flowers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you want to call that, but whatever. And then they had multiples in a giant pot, so it was just so full and beautiful. And I was like, "Oh, this is so cool!" Like it was wonderful. I loved it.
Yeah, I don't know why I don't. It's so strange. It seems like we're remembering different parts of the trip.
Well, it's how your brains work as friends,
So
or
like
even
you remember
travel.
all of it.
Yeah, you remember parts that were more significant to you than the other person. So like we met up with your friends, we all took a group picture, and then this guy
Yeah,
and
I
his
do
friends,
remember that.
he was trying to take pictures with just me,
Yeah.
and it was really awkward. And he kept yanking me over to take more pictures. And so you got your friend. She was older than the rest of the group. I remember that. But she came over and just like yelled at him, and he like so sorry, backing away, and she goes, "You tell me if that happens again," and just walks to the head of the group and is leading the charge to dinner. And I'm like, first inclination that I'm a little bit out of the water here.
Yeah.
And then I remember the meal afterwards. After that, we were at a Buddhist temple,
Mm-hmm.
and everything we ate was vegan or vegetarian.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember eating what they called sweet and sour pork, but it was mushrooms. And I had to tell you, I didn't really like mushrooms. And then I started to get this idea. If I can think of mushrooms tasting like that sweet and sour pork, I'm going to have to like them eventually. And now I do eat mushrooms. So that trip kind of was the tipping point of like trying to eat mushrooms. So,
Yeah.
but I have visions of that. I just want to eat that again. It was so good.
I remember that restaurant. I wish my friends had taken me there before because it was very good and everything was vegetarian and vegan. And I feel like every time I find one of those places where it's like a Buddhist temple, they have like the best food. Like the
Hmm.
best food. And so, it's really interesting. But yeah, I remember that and that was a fun day. And the reason this happens to a lot of foreigners, it didn't happen to me too much, so I guess I wasn't cute enough. But one of the things that happens in China is that like locals like to take pictures of white people. I don't know why. I have a theory, but I'm probably wrong. But like one of the things that we would say is that they like to it's kind of like trading cards. So they like try to be like, hey, I got this one and I got that one, like with their friends. But I think it also might be because they like to try to say like they're friends with that person, even though they don't know them. Um, but that's what was happening is that, especially in China, because Emma is blonde and blue eyed, they don't see very many people like that. So he was trying to take pictures with her because he thought she was unique and fascinating. It happens, unfortunately.
Very nice.
Yeah.
This little old me over here in the corner, and I'm like, "Blah!" There's people everywhere. Blah! They want my picture. Blah! Blah!
So was there
Because I
any?
remember we went to a park too, and we were taking pictures in this like archway, and there's a lady behind you with a giant digital camera taking my picture, and I like looked at her, and you had told me start asking for like what was it, 2 fingers or 1 finger for
Yeah, I
ten
think
kwai.
it's this Ten Kwai.
So I like held it up to my face and went, and she immediately put her camera down, and I was like, "Oh, I did it!" or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was. I might have put my hand up where her camera was. Um, no, we were talking about the 10 ply on the subway. So I think I put my hand up, and you were like, "What?" And I was like, "There's a lady behind you. Just keep going."
Yeah, I think
So,
I do remember that. Um, was there anything else that like shocked you? Anything else that like kind of surprised you when you came over?
yes. So it was about chicken.
Oh, oh yeah, that was my bad, honestly. It
There
didn't
were two
even
parts.
occur to me to tell you not to do that, but I kind of forgot. I forgot that's how it
So
was served.
I, if for people that don't know, I eat meat, and Nicole's not, but she knew the language, and I did not. So
A little
the
bit of the
first,
language. Don't go
I'm
around
actually,
here trying to make it sound like I know Chinese because I don't.
you know more than I did. Let's go with that. Um, so I'm actually going to tell the second story, which then makes the first story make sense. So it was later on in the trip. We just got back from hiking in the mountains, and um, we went to a market that was like we had started walking around. We found the place that you're supposed to find the pearl market, and it wasn't open. So we're like, let's just go explore. So we go down this little like side street, and it's jam packed full of people. It's just their local
Oh
everyday
yeah,
market.
the wet
And
markets. This might have been a dry market actually. Forgot.
well, there was a booth that had chickens in cages out front.
Yep.
And then as we walk past, all I hear is this thwunk. And then
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, wait a minute. You can pick your chicken and they'll butcher it right in the street for you.
Yeah.
And we don't do that in the US. So I'm like, what are the sanitary methods? What are these? And I'm like, there's really none. They just go to the market and get the chicken and call it a day. And you pick out the chicken. What if you wanted to have it as a pet chicken?
You could.
Oh, you could. But it was so, I was like icing on the cake to what had happened on the mountain trip. So
Well,
On the mountain trip, I won't go into too much detail for this part of the story because we'll talk about it later. Um, we had been hiking and it had been a really, really long day. And we're like, we need some food with some sustenance and not the MRE meals we were eating on the mountain. And which is basically where you put the water packet or the heating packet in the water and you let it boil the food above it and steam it off.
I don't think we ate that
And
that day, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
yeah, or just eating like sausages or crackers or whatever while we were walking,
Yeah,
you know.
it was not a lot of food
So
that day.
no, so we go to a restaurant that doesn't have a wait, and we're like, okay, cool. So we ordered this egg and tomato dish that was really, really yummy.
Fun
Um,
done.
I think you got an eggplant dish that was also really good.
Yeah, oh, it's one
And
of my
then
favorites there.
Nicole ordered me a chicken dish that was really good. It was fennel seeds and something else. So the fennel seeds actually made it taste really sweet, like licorice. And I was like, I don't understand this 100%. I had to research it when I got back, what the seed looked like and all that stuff. And I was like, cool. But as I am eating this dish, I'm used to like when they serve chicken, it's in like if it's a small like chunked up, it's just the chicken breast or a chicken thigh because that's where the most meat is, and they pulled it off and chopped it up. But that is not the case when I was eating. They just literally took the whole bird and just chopped it up. They cooked it in whatever, or they chopped it up as it was raw, bones, feet,
Head.
everything in all, and just threw it in the pot, cooked it down, and then served it to you.
Yep.
So the first one was I pulled out a chicken foot, and I was a little freaked out.
Yeah, I remember. You're like, what is this? And I'm like, oh, that's right. It's probably one of the feet. And you're like, why? And I was like, they cooked the whole thing here. You're like, I thought you weren't gonna finish it after that, actually.
Well, it gets better. I don't know if you remember this part. So I'm digging through to find the other foot because they only gave me one foot, so I could have complained and got the other foot. And I'd given up, and I went and I grabbed another piece of, or what I thought was a piece of meat, and I had put my chopstick through the eye socket and the beak and pulled it out and was in shock that I was about to eat a chicken head if I hadn't really looked at it. And it was basically just the head, like the bones left. There was no meat on it, and I was like thoroughly grossed out and uncomfortable for a second. And I went, I need to eat, and I can see what has meat, so I just need to be careful what I am grabbing with my chopsticks to eat. And yeah, it was definitely an experience for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Lord have mercy, it was freaky.
One of the good things about being a vegetarian in China is that you're going to avoid some of those weirder things. But
That's
they
true.
also think that how we make food is very strange because we get it like prepackaged in things, and they're always like, "Well, how do you know it's fresh? Like, how are you? Why are you okay with that being maybe some older food?" So I can understand their point of view. Like they always get fresh food, and it's very good. Like their food is really delicious.
I don't think I had a bad meal while we were there.
Yeah.
And I can't say that for where I live because I can go to a restaurant and it can be kind of blah or bland or whatever the case, and it's supposed to be this flavorful dish. And I'll be like, well, there's that.
And apparently, China has so many dishes that you can eat something different, like, every single day for, like, a few years and never have the same thing.
Really?
Yeah. Like, they have, like, numerous dishes. So, like, I thought that was pretty interesting. I don't know how many years it's supposed to be. It could be just one, but I thought that was pretty cool. that they had so many different dishes. You could eat something different every single day and not ever eat the same thing.
That is pretty cool.
Um, so definitely some culture shock on your end. It's kind of hard for me to kind of have the same reactions as Emma because that was like the second year I was there.
Yeah.
So like by then I was numb to all of it. I was just trying to educate Emma on like how to survive while she was there. Um, what did you think about the subway? Because when my mom came, she said the subway really freaked her out.
I don't think it freaked me out as much as I thought it. Like, I knew it was going to be packed full of people, and I think standing in line, waiting for things was what freaked me out the most because they don't understand the concept of standing in line. But I think the subway really wasn't that bad because I'd been to the UK before,
Mm.
and like one of the last days, or no, right in the middle of the trip, there was a tube strike. So if you didn't get on the subway before 6 o'clock that day, at p.m., you were stranded if you lived out in the suburbs and you worked in the city center.
Mm.
You had to find a car to get you to go home, and it was so packed on the street. It was faster to walk than it was to drive anywhere
Wow.
because everybody was freaking out. So I think I was okay with it because I literally spent a month in London running around in the tube for going back and forth to school and stuff like that. So it really wasn't, to me, it wasn't too bad. I think getting my picture taken on the tube was the most popular thing people did. Because you're sitting on the tube in China and people are just like, snap, 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 snap. And it's so quick. Like, I look over and someone's already taken my picture because they saw me walk in and were waiting for me to rotate.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so I usually kept my head down most days. But
Mom said that she didn't like how like fast everything was, because like when those doors open, like you have to get in as quickly as possible. It's not that the doors are slow or anything, but like because there's so many people waiting, like you can be waiting for the metro and then not be able to get on, and then you have to wait for the next one. So everybody gets like really like anxious and they start pushing each other in. So you have to be very like quick, or otherwise you can kind of get hurt because like people do not care. They will push you, and because you are in their way and they're getting on with or without you. So there were a couple times Mom said that she felt like she was gonna get lost from me, and since I knew where we were going, she didn't want that to happen. But I think I always put her like ahead of me so that I could like make sure she wasn't like lost or anything. I don't really remember though.
I do remember following you out of things because you walk really fast, and I also walk really fast. But it really helped when we're like trying to get out of the metro. Excuse me, I keep calling it the tube, because you knew exactly where we needed to go, and instead of me like lollygagging and looking around a lot, like I just followed you and I knew where I needed to go, and I wouldn't have to worry about like getting lost because which is nice about our height is that we usually stood above most of the people. Like we were basically the same height as the men. Yeah. So that really did help because then I could look for a brunette with long hair versus short cropped black hair.
Right.
So that was one thing. But when we were waiting in line for the bus to take us up to the mountain, that part freaked me out. Like the first day, I just remember getting an elbow to the stomach by accident and the person like not even realizing it, so I elbowed them right back and they looked at me like, oh, and I'm like, I pointed to my elbow or like slapped my elbow and they like kind of tried to get away from me and I'm like, well, you fucking elbowed me, excuse me, you effing elbowed me, so like back off, dude. And then the next day we had talked about it. I was like, we have to figure out a better way to do this. So when we were standing in line, you're literally just getting pushed ahead by the people behind you. Um, so I held onto your backpack and shoved my face in your backpack and just let you plow through people. And we got so many dirty looks, but so my little Midwesterner was like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. But at the same time, it was like, you're shoving me back, so deal with it. Like, ah! So it was definitely an experience, and because I have an issue, like one of my biggest fears is getting trampled. So
Yeah.
like I had this kind of like anxiousness the whole time that I was about to be trampled, and I'm like, I know I'm not about to be trampled, but like it was freaky. Like
Yeah.
try getting shoved downstairs, but not getting shoved. But because it was so packed and there were so many people, you weren't going to fall down the stairs. But like I
Oh,
literally
yeah.
think I just got pushed down the stairs for two of those for at least one of the days, and I was like, oh boy, this is interesting.
That is one thing about the metro that I was always really weirded out about is that like if there were so many people you couldn't hang on to something, the metro was like obviously not very stable, so it could just stop out of nowhere, and then you're just like falling back on people, and you're like, I'm gonna fall over, but there's just so many people, you're just like leaning on somebody, but it feels very unsecure and very unsafe. But there's nothing you can do about it because there's just so many people. And yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that line where you were like, I don't think I realized how freaked out you were, but I do know that you were very uncomfortable with the fact that we were like kind of cutting people, but that was kind of the thing you had to do. Like lines aren't
Yes.
a thing there. You kind of just have to like go through the flow of foot traffic. So yeah, it was definitely an experience for you, I bet.
It was. It was definitely different than what was interesting, we were traveling in areas where not a lot of people knew English. So I've never had to experience that. Well, I've experienced it a couple times when I was traveling in Europe, but I was always able to communicate, and they understood more English than the people there did.
Mm-hmm.
So we were a little bit more. I felt a little more isolated. Like I seriously felt uncomfortable. Versus like when I was traveling in Europe, I knew a little bit of German. So when I was traveling in Switzerland and Austria and Germany, in the Czech Republic, I could make out a couple of words here or there because they had every place I went had a sign in German. So I
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, I know I'm on this street. Okay, I have a map. Where am I on this street? Like, go from there. But when
Yeah.
I'm there, I have to like look around and be like, okay, what do I don't know what I'm doing. Or like, I know I have to go to this tube stop, but once I get there, or this metro stop, and then have to go find this over there, I know I need to turn this direction out of the metro, but then I got to remember how many blocks I need to walk before I turn left, or something like that. So that was a little bit daunting because I was like, I don't know how to read Chinese characters, and I don't really have a decent map. So this is fun.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't think we got lost too often when we were.
mm-mm.
I don't think we got lost too often when we were just wandering around places because we didn't really have anywhere we had to go. Right? We kind of were just meandering most of the time.
Well, you had a list of places to take me, um, but like so the first one, the fabric market,
Oh yeah.
they were closed for the holidays, so we couldn't go there.
Yeah.
And
Unfortunately,
then
Emma came during Chinese New Year where everything's closed. I forgot
yes,
that.
and then we were we had traveled to the city to go to um, there was another town we went to by tube stop, and we were supposed to go to this library, and then we looked,
Um,
and the library is like boarded up and creepy looking. So then we ended up finding a bookstore on the corner, so we went to that instead.
hmm.
Um, But
I don't really remember that library you're talking about, honestly.
I forget why we went there specifically. I thought it was for I don't 100% remember. It was later in the day that we got there, and he said there's a library here that I researched. It looks really cool. And then we kept walking past what I assumed was the library, and you had assumed was the library, and it was like really dark looking and creepy. And
oh yeah, I do remember that. I don't know why we went there. Maybe it had to be like we went to that town and I was just trying to find places we would both like to go. And I kind of had a thing about when I was traveling, I like to go see all the libraries. Because I found that libraries in other countries are like awesome. Like they're like legit. So I think I wanted to take you to one to just show you. And it ended up being closed. They just shut it down for some reason. The reason I brought up being lost is because there was one time we got real lost.
For 6 hours to be exact.
And it might sound like we got lost together, but that is not the way me and Emma roll.
No.
So we actually we went to a famous mountain in China called Yellow Mountain. And it was one of these places I wanted to go for a really long time. And I had heard about it. And it's like one of those things that like my friends had said, if you go to this mountain, you'll never have to go to any other mountains in China. So because they said that there's like everything there. There's like lakes, there's, really nice hiking. You can see it snow there and you can see it rain. Like it just has like all the seasons, I think was the point she was making. But like I had told her, like that's the thing I like to do on my vacations is go hiking on mountains. So she told me about Yellow Mountain, and I asked Emma if she wanted to go with me, because during the Chinese New Year, because we were foreigners, we could actually get our tickets for free. You remember that?
No.
Yo, you don't
I
remember
don't.
that? Yeah.
No.
So like because we were we were foreigners during that time, we didn't pay for the ticket to the mountain, but we paid for the bus.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's how they get you. So we did that. And the first day was fine. It was actually really nice the first day. It was very warm. Right. And I made Emma climb up the whole entire mountain. She was not very happy with me. And then we climbed all the way back down. And she's like, tomorrow, we are not doing that. So the next day,
we're paying the money to take a ski lift to the top and work our way down like everybody else is doing.
Yeah, so that's what we did. We ended up taking the ski lift up. But that day, it was actually raining. Like it was very overcast. So we had bought these yellow rain ponchos. Yeah, rain ponchos. And one of the things I didn't think about is the fact that everybody else would be wearing these yellow ponchos. And you don't realize how similar everybody looks in the same color until you're on a mountain looking for your best friend.
and like done before, to clue everybody in, because Emma was slower going up than Nicole was. Yeah, so Nicole would go about 10 to 12 steps ahead of Emma to the landing, and then Emma would catch up. And we didn't have to wear a poncho that day. So I could just look and find her sitting on a bench going, "Hi, you made it." And I'm like, okay, now we go to the next thing.
And then the other thing I think I didn't realize is that the day before, I was not wearing very much. Like we weren't wearing hats. We weren't wearing our coats. We were wearing coats, but like our hair was exposed, so I could see your blonde hair very easily, and I'm sure you could see my brunette hair. But like that day, you were wearing your hat, and I'm sure that I had like my hood up or something, and so like it just made it very difficult to identify you. And I think I went up to this landing, and I thought you were much further behind me than you were. I think that was the biggest problem. and I went over all the way to the other side, which it was a pretty big landing. So I went to the other side, and I think by the time I got into the other side, you probably had already rounded the corner and gone up, thinking I continued without you. And
Yeah.
I sat
And
down and got my camera out, waiting to take your picture, and then like there was no Emma.
yeah, and I remember walking up because you were maybe 5 steps ahead of me, 5 or 6. Because I wasn't as tired out that day, and it wasn't as many stairs at the beginning. It was a lot of like, here's a little pathway. You can
Mm-hmm.
climb up here and look at things if you wanted to, whatever the case. And you had your hood up, and I was like, okay, there's another tourist group coming in behind me. I need to haul ass and get up there because if I don't, um, I'm literally going to be stuck in a throng of people and I will lose Nicole, which is fun. So I get to the top and I pause for a second and I look around and I don't see Nicole in my direct vicinity. And all I see is a bunch of yellow ponchos and black jackets. And I'm like, I don't know where Nicole is. And so stupidly, I look and I thought I saw her on top of this viewpoint where you could go up and climb up this little like rock face. And I'm not a huge fan of heights. So I was like, why is she doing this to me? So I go climb up over here. Meanwhile, Nicole is taking her seat.
Yeah. So like I don't know how long I waited down there. And I think that was probably where we got really separated because I waited probably a good 10 minutes just thinking for some reason you were continuously behind me. The whole entire time we were separated, I continuously thought Emma was behind me. Cuz it just didn't dawn on me that you got ahead for some reason and that I should catch up. But I think there were moments where it's like, "Oh, she has to be ahead of me, so I need to go faster."
Mm-hmm.
And then I would get to like a certain area and you were still not there, so I was just like, well, am I wrong? Is she still behind me? I don't know. Like I guess I just thought we were closer to each other than I thought. It was really bad. It was a really bad day. So I went up to the next like so after I got to the landing and was like, okay, I'm probably behind her now. I went up to the next landing, looked around, you weren't there. Went up again, and that was where I found the mushrooms. I don't know if you remember those. But
Mm-hmm.
I was like, for some reason, I was like, okay, she has to be here. Like, why would she go any further if she hasn't seen me? You know, I just didn't see why you would continue to like move. I thought you would just be waiting somewhere, being like, I don't think you would be, like, oh, where's Nicole? Just be like, okay, she's probably, you know, behind me now or something. I don't know. And I think a lot of people are at this point are like, well, why don't you guys just call each other? Because I'm an idiot and I don't ever have any data. And I think Emma didn't your phone wasn't working. Like you could call home, but you couldn't call a Chinese number for some reason.
No, I had no cellular service on the mountain.
But you were
I
able
had
to
to use
call your
Wi-Fi.
mom.
Yeah, but I had to use Wi-Fi to make the call.
Oh.
I had no data, no service, so I didn't know who to call. And so where I was thinking was like in my head, it was like, what would Nicole do? And I'm like, to me, we had a goal, we had a schedule. Nicole would just walk down the mountain and meet me at the bottom of the mountain. That's what it would be. So I'm like, I would stop. I'd get to like main points on this map. Mind you, this map was not great. It was little icons and a squiggly line, which was the path. And then the icon was this iconic thing to look at. So I stopped at this. The first time it was like a rest area, a lot of people, very busy, lots of food. I was like, oh, maybe I should eat. But I was panicking because I had all the food and water. Nicole had my passport.
And your money.
And my money. So I was like, shit, this did not go well. So I stopped there for a bit, looked around, and all I could still see was yellow ponchos and black coats, and I was getting to this. It was called the Tiger Tree.
That's where
Or
we
the
were
Black
supposed to
Tiger
eat
Tree.
lunch.
It was a lot of stairs. Let me tell you that much.
I honestly thought that out of all the places that I was going to find you there. Because we had planned to eat lunch there, remember?
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, that's right.
So
I waited there for probably a half an hour.
Mm-hmm. And I was still behind you.
And then you were still behind me. And then there was like this pond a ways up, and I was like, I'll pass the pond, and then there's this another lookout point before you could take the stairs up to go to the hotel that they had on the mountain, or you take the stairs down to finish the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And because it was raining, I stayed on this landing. It was like Blue Heron Landing or something. I stayed on this plateau sort of area for almost 45 minutes.
And I kept frustrates me about that is that that's when I was waiting for you at that tiger leaping place. Because we had said we were going to eat lunch there. So it's like, if she's not there, then she's still behind me. Because, like, why else would she leave if she's not, like, if she's ahead of me, she should be there. Because that's where we had planned to, like, eat. So I'm like, that's a perfect meetup spot. Why would she move from there? But now that I think about it, it was raining. Like, it was really bad. And I do understand why he left, because it was miserable just sitting there. And I really, if I had just been like, okay, she's not here, let's keep going, I would have met up with you at that other lookout point.
Yeah, because there was no, like, easy spot to, like, in essence, stop and, like, take cover. Yeah. There was one, like, pergola on the path that I was able to on the way down, because when I got to the Blue Heron Landing, it was 3:30 or 3 o'clock, and I've been looking on the map. It said that it takes 3 hours from this point to hike down. Mm-hmm. And the park closed at 6 o'clock. So I started to panic, and I was like, we don't have overnight passes. We have to get the last bus out of here. So I started to freak out. So I hiked solid for about an hour down these stairs, found the little pergola that you could sit under, ate something because I knew I needed to, and then, like, pretty much sprinted the rest of the way down. Slipped a couple of times, which was a little scary because there's no railings or anything on the sides. And when I got down to the bottom, I'd made good time. It was 5 o'clock, and I was like, okay, I have an hour. And I said, if I don't see her in 10 minutes, I need to I need to do something. Mm-hmm. And stupidly, at this point, not necessarily stupidly,
but you did what you thought you had to do.
So when I freak out or I need help making a fairly sizable decision, I called my mom.
As you should.
As I should. Because there was Wi-Fi at the bathroom that I had just stopped at. And I went, okay, Mom, and she goes, why are you calling me so late? And I was like, it's going to sound really bad, and I need you to not freak out. And I said, I lost Nicole, and I hear her pause, and I know she's panicking. And I said, I lost Nicole, but it's okay. Here's my plan. And I tell her, if I don't see her in 10 minutes, I am going to contact Park Police to figure out what's going on. And she goes, okay, that sounds good. You let me know when you find Nicole. So 10 minutes goes by, and this guy just pops out of nowhere, a park policeman, and he's just walking past, and I was like, I gotta do it. So I wave him down, and he has no English. He has no clue what I'm saying. he starts laughing at me because I'm acting so stupid, like trying to explain. My WeChat app did not have the pinging to English conversion, so he flags down this other guy and as they talk in rapid fire Chinese, and the guy says in broken English, he's like, he doesn't know English. I know a little. What's going on? And I said, or he pulls, and I start to try and explain, and he stops. He's not understanding. He gives me the WeChat app, and I talk into it, and it translates it into Chinese or Pinyin. So I said, lost my partner. There were two, only one now. Where is she? And they look at me, and I look at both of them. The guy that the park policeman had flagged down was like, "Oh crap," kind of a face, and the park police guy was like, determined now. So he just takes off and walks in the opposite direction, and the guy and I are standing here like, what are we supposed to do? And the park guy turns around and goes, "Let's go," kind of emotion. And I was like, hey, I assume we're going. I waved to the guy, and then I walked and I followed him. And he took me into this office where all the park police for that day were hanging out. And I sat down, or I walked in. They all kind of looked up and went, hey, to the guy. And then they kind of did this, like, really... So, you know, like in the movies where they're watching, like, a ping pong ball go across the screen? It was like, to their phone, to my face, to their phone, to my face, to their phone, a couple of times. And I'm like, what? And then they all start rapid fire talking to each other. They're up and about. One person's running out of the door. And I'm like, did I do something wrong?
So probably what had happened is that by that time I had got into a place where I had also ran into somebody. It was probably park police as well. And I knew a bit more Chinese than Emma, so I was able to at least kind of throw in some Chinese and English, but this woman actually knew a lot of English. So I was able to tell her that I had lost you and I didn't know where you were. And then she was like, okay, describe her. And so I was like, she has blonde hair, she has glasses, she is American. And she's like, do you have her passport? And I think I did. So I gave them your passport, and she took a picture of you. So they must have had that picture.
Well, no, you gave them a picture that we had taken together earlier that day. Because then they knew exactly what I was wearing.
Yeah.
They could find me. Because I was wearing a stocking cap with my bangs pulled back, so it looks like I have no hair.
So, yeah, I had given them the picture that we had taken earlier, so they knew exactly what you looked like. And that must have been what they were looking at. And then they were just like, brrr! So they knew we were both safe at that point, I think.
Yes. So then I sat down on the couch. They told me to sit down. They gave me water. There was a young woman there who was taking English classes, and she was like pretty much fluent. And she's like, I'm still working on my English. And I was like, it's very good. You understand everything I'm saying. And she kind of laughed and she said, thank you. And she is offering me these, like, I think she called them elephant ears. I'm used to them in the States being like this cinnamon swirl giant Danish sort of a treat, but they were little crackers, like yay big, the same looking thing. So she kept offering me things to eat, and I said, I'm good with just some hot water, you know, that's fine for me. And she says, you wait here, your friend is already on the way down, she'll be here, we will find you a way back. So I had said, well, the park closes, there's going to be no more buses, like, what's going on, what are we going to do? And they're like, if anything, we will give you a ride back to your hotel in the police cruiser, basically. And I was like, okay, well, that'll look real great coming out of a police cruiser as a blonde-haired, blue-eyed person in the middle of China. Like, okay. But it was, so I waited. And I waited.
And so I was on my way down, and I pretty much didn't stop. I don't think I ate very much either. I might have stopped a little bit to, like, snack on something, but I knew, like, I think at that point I was pretty sure that you were ahead of me, and I was like, if I do not see her, because I didn't know that Emma had gotten somewhere safe and that she had gotten to talk with the police officer. All I knew was what I had told them. I was looking for her, and then I had to leave. I had to keep going. I had to keep moving. Um, and the woman said something about like she was gonna have somebody wait for me like right before I get to the stairs to tell me if like there was any news, but I don't remember seeing anybody, and so I just started down. And so I was just like, if she is not at the bottom of these stairs, I have literally no idea what I'm going to do. Like I at that point I was really out of ideas. So I just go down, down, down. I think I went to the bathroom, and then I just kept going, 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 and I finally get down to like the last stretch, and so I can see the buildings and this bench where you would assume Emma would be sitting, and there's nobody, and I'm just like, oh my god, I have no more ideas. I don't know what to do. I don't know where she is. So I just get down all the way to the bottom, and I'm so tired because I was just like going down these stairs like consistently. And so I just sit down and I'm just like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I guess maybe it was the guy you talked to earlier, but it was like the guy that was manning the snacks, like at the very bottom. He had a shop, and he saw me, and he's like, oh, and he came around, and he's like kind of speaking to me in Chinese, but I was like enough. It was just excited enough that I'm like, he knows where my friend is, and so he called over a police officer, and the police officer saw me, and he's like, okay, let's go to the station. And I walk in, and there's Emma sitting down, and I'm just like, honey, I'm home.
They looked at us like we were crazy, but we're like, ah, we found you. We're like, I found you, they found you, and just like we had a big hug. And the weirdest thing at the end of this whole thing, it just like icing on the cake to the whole experience. We had to take a giant group photo with all of these park police officers, and they're all like crowding around us, and we're like, hi, we just want to go home now.
And I thought it was really funny because it's not like they did anything. Like, it was all us. Had I not sent them the picture, had you not gone and talked to them, like, they didn't do anything to find both of us. Like, we got to the bottom of the mountain and found each other. Like, I feel like they kind of took credit for something that they had no part in.
Well, if you think about it this way, if once I had gotten to them to the office, how did the snack man know you were missing? Or you were the person to find?
I don't know. I mean, I guess, did you have a picture of me that you showed them?
No, I had no pictures on my phone.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, then he must have gotten the picture from me. I must have sent, because it was a picture of us.
Oh. That could be.
So the police officer probably showed him a picture of me and just was like, if you see her, let me know.
That could work.
But again, I guess it would have had to take them like showing him the picture, but whatever.
But so rule number 1, do not lose your designated hiking buddy or travel buddy.
Yeah, Mom just told me that I'm no longer allowed to leave you anymore, which I think is a good rule. Because again, another little cherry on top of this whole story is that the next day we did get different colored jackets. We were smart enough to do that. I had purple, you had blue. And then we got to this point where I guess there was just like a lot of people in this like courtyard. And I went over to like just look at the map, and Emma turned around and she just like couldn't see me. And I guess you must have found me pretty quickly because I didn't even notice. And you were like, oh my gosh, I almost lost you again. I was like, fuck. Yeah, we need to stop separating.
Yeah. But we found each other, and I think the biggest thing to take away from our experience is that, one, obviously don't lose your travel buddy. Like, have a way to communicate even if you don't have technology available. So like if it's talking to a guy with a radio because he's wearing something here and looks all official, talk to the guy right away. Emma has learned not to do what she thinks Nicole would do, but do what Emma thinks she's going to do or should do. And then 2 is, I think, to find a place where, like, I do what I do now is like it's 4 or 5 things that I really really want to do while I'm on that trip, and that's it. Anything else is we go explore and have fun, and
Yeah.
that's a lot of what our trip was. We had a couple of bullet points, and then it was just exploring the places we were in, and that was more fun because then we have these random experiences of me almost eating a chicken head, or getting my photo taken by some random people and that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, like, if anybody did get in a situation where they got lost from each other or just like together, I think the biggest thing that at least I felt like helped us, or at least me, was I knew like at some point we were gonna get back together. Like, it wasn't to the extent of like I would never find you again. Like, I think that's why I didn't freak out as much. But I think like
Yeah,
not freaking out. It's a hard thing to do, especially when like you want to be with somebody and you don't want to be like alone. Obviously, it wasn't a fun experience at all. But like I think if either of us had been freaking out, it would have made that whole situation worse.
absolutely,
Because I think it
absolutely.
was always in my mind. I knew I would get back together with you, whether that would be on the mountain or on the bottom of the mountain. I knew we would find each other. Like it never crossed my mind that we would not be able to find each other. So it's again,
Yeah,
our situation was a little specific, but I would recommend that to anybody. Is just like don't lose hope. Sounds really
yeah, and
silly, but
I think what had helped me too the most was that we had set a time that we had wanted to be done for the day and be home for the day. So our home is into the hotel or the hostel. So we had said we wanted to be at the bottom of the mountain between 5 and 6, which was when the park closed, so we could get the last couple buses and go back to the hostel and then get some food. And I just kept thinking in my head, okay, get to the bottom of the mountain. Nicole will be there. This is the time we agreed upon. And that was the same thing. It was the tiger tree. It was like, okay, we were going to stop for lunch around what we had estimated, I think was like 1:30, 2 o'clock, and said, this is roughly where we're going to sit and eat because it's obviously a point on the map that's roughly halfway between, or
yeah,
looks like it's halfway between on this picture drawing of something that a
it
kid
seemed
made.
like it was a little bit closer to the end than I thought it was gonna be.
I think so too, because it was a half an hour, 20 minutes at most to the next like lookout point,
Mm-hmm.
which was then like the 3 hour, the quote unquote 3 hour marker on the map
Mm-hmm.
to the bottom. So I was like, it worked, but it worked out.
Yeah, it did. All right, thanks for joining us again, and we will talk to you next week. So, bye.
Right?
I'm not a sad girl.